The University of Maryland Eastern Shore has seen its share of superstars through the years. Martin Luther King gave a speech there.
Saxophonist Clarence Clemens of the E Street Band went to school there. Don't forget First Ladies Eleanor Roosevelt and Michelle Obama.
Another household name visited the Princess Anne campus in 1974, and this weekend marks the 50th anniversary of that visit. It's a visit that Jim Duffy, author of Secrets of the Eastern Shore, has the inside scoop on in this week's edition of Throwback Thursday. Welcome back.
Of course he does.
Thank you.
Okay, so who was it?
It was the First Lady of Song, the Queen of Jazz, Ella Fitzgerald.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
So she came down there. Well, maybe for our younger viewers, we should get what level
quick review
she
there.
was
Yeah,
at.
right.
200 records, 2,000 songs, 13 Grammy Awards, Presidential Medal of Honor. But the best measure of her talent was like Bing Crosby, Duke Ellington, and Mel Torme all called her best singer in the world.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she came down to Princess Anne because they were naming the Performing Arts Center after her. And
Okay.
it's still
Right.
the Ella Fitzgerald Performing Arts Center. People from all over the Eastern Shore, you might imagine, they came flocking down there. The place was packed and overpacked and everything else. Now, Ella Fitzgerald was not much for speechifying, so her remarks were very short. Everybody used the same two quotes. One of them was like, "This day is going to go down in history in my heart." And then she had another one that I found very interesting, and it was, "If it's in you, it'll happen," which sounds like an attempt to be kind of inspirational, but she didn't say, "If you work hard, it'll happen."
Right.
Or if you pray, it'll happen. Or if you get lucky, it'll happen. She said, if it's in you, it'll happen.
It'll happen.
Can I tell a story that's not set on Delmarva?
Of course.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
The producer's not going to cut me off if I start doing that? Ella Fitzgerald was born in Newport News, working class family. Her parents split. Her mother got a new beau, and they all moved to New York City. Everything went great at first while she was in New York City. Good grades, she was in the Glee Club, but that was kind of a side thing. She didn't really want to be a singer, she wanted to be a dancer, so she was in all of these dance groups. Everything was going fine, and then she's 14 years old, her mother dies in a car accident.
Oh.
And things get worse. Her mother's boyfriend becomes her stepfather, and there's all these kind of, he never got arrested or anything, but there's all these kind of whispers in the historical record that he didn't treat her very well. She ended up living with an aunt in Harlem, but by this point, everything's spiraling out of control. Her grades are falling. She's on the street all the time. She's doing odd jobs for gamblers who are running numbers. She's on the lookout for cops at a house of ill repute, and she ends up in front of a judge who complains that she won't listen to anyone who tries to tell her anything, and he sends her to a reform school for 3 to 5 years.
Oh, my.
And things get really bad at the reform school because they are very fond of corporal punishment and they're very fond of solitary confinement. She runs away, ends up back in Harlem, on the streets, homeless, 15 years old.
This is Ella Fitzgerald.
This is Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay.
Homeless on the streets of Harlem, 15 years old, sleeping wherever she can find a bed. Still wants to be a dancer, and she tries to make money by being a street performer and doing dance routines on the corner. And when things started to change for her, she got a stroke of luck. She like, it's a little unclear. She won a lottery of some sort, and she got a chance to be on stage at the famous Apollo Theater for their amateur night at the Apollo, which is kind of like America's Got Talent before it was like TV and everything like that. So she practices and practices this dance routine, this homeless girl. She's practicing her dance routine. She gets into the audience, and she's waiting for her turn to come, and another group called the Edwards Sisters gets up. And Ella Fitzgerald later said, they were the dancingest sisters in the world. And she realizes that she cannot compete with the Edwards Sisters. She's dead in the water. And they call her up there, and her legs are shaking, and she can't bring herself to dance. And somehow, through some magic, she thinks of her mother, times she and her mother had, both big jazz fans. One of her mother's favorite group was the Boswell Singers, and they used to do a Hoagie Carmichael song called Judy, about a flirtatious girl who breaks every man's heart in the world everywhere he goes. And instead of dancing, she starts singing, no rehearsal, nothing. Just reminiscing her mother and her singing that.
Oh my God.
And you know what happened? She brought down the house. Brought down the house, won the big $25 grand prize. It wasn't like she became an overnight success after that, but that's what opened doors. And then she got in the Chick Webb Orchestra, and then she got her own orchestra, and she was on her way to all those Grammys and all that. And that's the story behind those kind of cryptic words she said in Princess Anne. If it's in you, it'll happen.
That's incredible. I've never heard that story
I
before.
hadn't either. I didn't know all that.
Yeah.
I know.
Jim Duffy, Secrets of the Eastern Shore. As always, thank you.
Man.